Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Renatus J.A.M. I'm Jay Stark.
And I'm Matt Snyder.
And we are excited to be bringing to you, once again, one of the very best that Renatus has to offer. None other than Cowboy, Mr. Mark Kohler. No,
Cowboy Kohler. And I would say not one of the very best, but the very best.
Nice.
Thanks. Mark Kohler, Chris Wilson.
Oh, there we go. There you go.
I was trying to, let everybody know all about it. He's my hero, so I thought I'd wear a hat. But no, I got a reason for wearing the hat, so we'll get to that, I'm sure. But
nice.
Thanks for having me, guys. Honor to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you. And Mark, I got to know. So we tout your credentials quite a bit. He's a CPA. He's an attorney. So I got to ask, which one came first, the chicken or the egg?
I passed the CPA exam before the bar exam.
All right.
Okay.
There you go. So, but I opened the law firm before I opened the accounting firm. So, maybe we'll get into it, but it's quite the story.
I've got a question right off the bat. On our first podcast, I don't know if you remember.
What's that?
It came up. I brought it up that I thought that don't you do something with like teaching the IRS or consulting or something, or did I do you do that ever, or did I hear that
Well, I teach what's called as continuing education to other CPAs, enrolled agents, a lot of enrolled agents in the IRS system, but I don't go to the IRS service center and teach current employees.
Not like
IRS
a trainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm knee deep in it. I had what I do is this morning I had a 2-hour class that I went to, taught by some of the most boring people in the world. And then I make
other
notes.
CPAs.
Exactly. And I make notes and then I try to turn it into English and teach the Renatus Nation. So that's
and a fantastic job you do.
Yeah, that's always how Bob likes to introduce you, that you take one of the most dry and boring subjects in the world and make it entertaining. So let me ask you, you said you took the CPA exam first, but how close together were those as far as, did you get all your CPA certifications done and then decide you wanted to become a lawyer? Were you doing them at the same time?
Well, that's where many of you will kind of learn who I am and how intense I really am. So in the middle of law school, I took the CPA exam while working for a big 6 firm. So I did them at the same time, which is, if you talk to a lawyer that's like, hold it, you took the CPA exam at the end of your first year of law school, and then, and back then you had to take all 4 parts of the CPA exam at once. And so I passed 2 out of the 4, and then you have to get a certain percentage of the other 2. And I missed it by 3 points. So I retook the CPA exam in the second year of law school, got my CPA certification while working for 3 accounting firms, then came out of law school and worked at the tax court. And then the rest of it. So it's crazy. It was a long work.
If you had to take all 4 portions of the CPA exam at the same time, those are 2 to 3 hour sections, aren't they?
Oh, it's a 2-day class. It's a 2-day test.
Oh,
you were testing
for
2 days.
Each of the parts.
No,
2 days.
Well,
the whole thing.
It's like each part is 3 hours. So 3 hours, you get to go to lunch, come back and take the next part for 3 hours, and then you come back the next day and 6 more hours.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I have no sympathy for these young guys that are taking the CPA exam. Oh, I'll take part number 1, and then I'll study for 3 more months and take part number 2. I got a guy in the room here with me that.
Did he do that?
He's working on it. Yeah.
Right on.
So he's going to get no sympathy. So this is awesome talking, guys. You guys are so casual. I love it. What are we talking about today? I'm just thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. So I just wanted to make sure that as you were attending BYU, you said that you also took the CPA exam.
No, my BYU, because I graduated from the University of Utah. It hurts that you brought up BYU, but I did the next best thing to University of Utah. I did BYU Hawaii.
Oh,
So I
nice.
had
Oh, so
surfing class, tennis class. I mean, it was really tough.
you were really going for Hawaii. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Nice.
I
Well,
didn't go to Happy Valley.
nice. I had to throw that in there. I just know how much you love Utah. So, go
Yeah.
Utes.
Yeah.
Nice. So, all
The
right.
rival.
So I'm still blown away that you took the CPA exam while you were studying to become a lawyer, and you had to take that exam twice, which is, I'm sure, just as much fun the second time as it was the first time. Do you have to retake all the parts?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Now, I think there was a rule that if you did high enough on 3 of them, you could just retake the 4th part, but you had to like off the chart. Rarely do people do that. So you had to do all 4 at a certain level. Anyway, yeah, those are the good old days. I'm old. I know I look like a millennial, but those are the good old days.
well, that cowboy hat definitely puts a little on you for sure. So
Oh,
that's,
dude, I'm trying to look like Kevin Costner in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
That guy's so good looking. I'm like, man, that guy, every year he gets better looking.
that's like
Kevin Costner, a hero.
Kevin Costner is like the American version of Sean Connery. The older that guy gets,
Yes.
the better he looks.
Yes. Good example.
No. Yeah. And Jackson Hole and everything is just 20 minutes, 30 minutes from here. I get into Wyoming and just so gorgeous. And so.
So okay. So why are you wearing the cowboy hat? You said we may get into that a little later.
Well, first of all, I'm having a bad hair day. That's number one. And no, because I'm in quarantine. I can't get
Yeah,
it.
why?
Oh, there you
Why
go.
not?
Yeah. And then number 2, it's the Wild Wild West. It has been nuts this year, isn't it? It's like crazy. So the stimulus package and everything and the coronavirus, everything we're all going through in this pandemic. And then number 3, some people ask, why do you live in Idaho? So I have to have a cowboy hat while I live here.
Nice.
And so, I don't
Whoa.
know. So I'm just,
Wait. Who asks why do you live in Idaho?
Anybody who doesn't live in Idaho.
Oh my gosh.
good.
I
Best kept secret.
right? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a terrible
So-
place. Nobody go there.
So with the Wild Wild West, with us seeing, these changes that are coming at us so fast right now, how do you stay on top of it? Because I feel like every couple of days you're coming out with another update. Hey guys, we got another update. One more thing has been added. One more thing's taken away. How do you stay on top of all of that?
The truth of the answer is I've got a great team. We've got a group text. I know some of you have group texts with old high school buddies or college buddies or your hunting buddies or whatever you do. I know many of us have group texts. We have a group text of over 11 to 12 CPAs and attorneys from around the country. And every time we learn something new, we just shoot it out in a text. And we also say, did you just figure this out? Or did you just see the SBA did this or that? And so my phone throughout the day is blowing up with little strategies and tips. And it's kind of like building a house. Once you get the foundation of the 800-page CARES Act, then you start saying, okay, here's the SBA guidance, the Treasury guidance. Then Secretary Mnuchin gets out and he does a press conference. And so every day something else adds on to it. And it seems overwhelming when you look from the outside in, like, how'd you build that house? But it's one block at a time. And so I've kind of got this whole thing stuck in my head now. And it's a beauty. And I say this humbly, it is actually pretty amazing because I've had so many people reach out that just say, please help.
Yeah.
And it's been quite emotional at times. It tears at my heartstrings right now because there's people that are really struggling. Other people are making money hand over fist. It's a weird thing. The coronavirus played right into their industry or business model, but it's hard out there. So I'm grateful I'm able to talk about it.
That's awesome. So how long will this last? How long are we going to see new updates coming from the government, from these different agencies? How long is that going to last before we start to see some normalcy come back to play?
I don't know. Are we going to get a fourth fill of the tank? I don't think we will. I think we're done. This $3 trillion is, I'm looking at my CFO here too, and he's in the loop of this every day. And I think we've scared off all the big companies that were trying to dip into the pot, the Ruth Chris's and the Shake Shacks and all that. And so the average loan value now is under $100,000. And so the money's not going out the door as fast, and they're helping more small business owners.
Nice.
So that's point number one. We have to say the stimulus is done first. And I think we're there. Now, this is the crazy part, guys. I am serious. I've got literally, I was just here on this show with you guys. I got a text from a group of 6 business owners, I'll leave it at that, that are like, Mark, we got to get a call with you. Because the scary part is, once you get this PPP money, you've got 8 weeks to spend it, document it properly, or it's not forgiven. And I've held several podcasts talking about the PPP time bomb. And this is what Dave Ramsey was talking about even weeks ago. He's like, don't do it. The government will find a way to screw you. And I like Dave. He wants to avoid debt at all costs. I get it. And It is a loan. Yeah. But if you don't follow the fine print on the rules for these 8 weeks, you're going to get saddled with a loan to the government. And that's not good. So now our whole mind shift is changing to that. So sorry, Jay, it's a long answer. I think the stimulus is done. Now it's turns to getting it forgiven, and then hopefully we'll get the economy back on track at the same time.
Yeah. So I know that my concern, and I've heard other people express this as well, is that the government has just cashed a check, a big one, that we now have to pay back. So how is that going to affect the tax landscape for the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well, what's interesting, and there's probably some poli-sci majors out there that'll take issue with what I'm going to say, but be patient with me. For the younger people, it is, and you guys are, I consider younger folks, this is pretty scary because you've never seen the government spend like this or have a deficit like this.
Right.
But what was interesting is when Bill Clinton took office over 20 years ago, we had a big deficit. And it was just amazing that when the economy gets kicking, the economy actually creates revenue for the coffers of the government through tax revenue because of the gross national product. And a big economy will actually help pay down the debt just as fast as increasing taxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if our government can get kicking on all cylinders again, hopefully it won't be as painful to pay the bill back. Yeah, there's a good chance taxes will go up.
You mean the
economy? Yeah, what did I say?
The government. So when the economy gets kicking, yeah.
Yes, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so when the economy gets humming, it's going to be it's going to help with that debt. But you guys, I don't know if you know this either. This is no one's talking about this either. Okay, when Trump and the GOP passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
Yeah.
3 years ago. All of the corporate provisions for big corporations and the 21% corporate tax rate and all the incentives to bring money from offshore back home, good stuff, permanent. That was permanent. The other section about individual tax rates and all those goodies that had to deal with the itemized deductions, all the business pass-through deductions for S Corps and 199A and all those goodies and entertainment expenses and auto, all of that, temporary. There are already provisions that are starting to expire. By 2023, the entire Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, gone. So now, in 3 years from now, whoever's in office again in 3 years from now is going to have to reevaluate, okay, now can we really cut taxes? We got this $3 trillion tax bill. How's the economy going? Crazy. That's why it's the wild, wild west, my friends.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that whole idea. That just seems like so much. So
it's deep.
Say that again. Sorry.
It's deep. Yeah, it's complicated. So I probably took the show way too complicated.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah. That's exactly what we're here to do. So you got. It was touching to see how you obviously feel for all of these small business owners out there that are struggling right now. So what do you tell them when they call you and say, "Hey, I need help"?
Well, you bet. A couple thoughts, and also let me put it in perspective. What's so crazy? I'll have a phone call where their world is falling apart, and then I'll get off the phone. My next call is a client that has cash reserves, their business is doing well, and they're poised to buy. I mean, it's going to be a buyer's market everywhere, whether it's real estate, small business, equipment sales, foreclosures. There's going to be a kind of a trickle down of people that weren't able to recover from this.
Right.
And this is just like Warren Buffett in 2008 and 9, freaking buying $1 billion worth of real estate. So I got phone calls with clients that are like, okay, get me ready to go. I'm ready to buy. And then I have a very emotional phone call with the client that's like, I've got to sell everything. How do I do this? How do I shut down my business? And You're like, oh. So it's really odd, to be honest. So I have to put on 2 different hats a lot. Get that hats?
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay. Okay. So what do I tell people? The first thing I tell people is this isn't your fault. A lot of people run their business into the ground with bad business practices, obviously. And we could go through a list of why businesses sometimes fail. But this is a situation that none of us have control over. And I don't want people to take it personally. We think a lot of times when our business fails, it hurts. It's like us, I did something wrong. So I have to remind people on the phone, there's 50 million other people like you out there. This isn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. No matter how many reserves you had, your business had to shut down for 2 or 3 months. How does a business recover from that?
Right.
They just don't.
Right.
Some don't.
Right.
And no matter how much money you have in the bank. And so I just really tell clients, hey, a good entrepreneur is flexible. They're agile. They'll bounce back. Don't take it personally. Just know that you've got to reinvent. It's going to change. Maybe is the best thing that could have happened to you. Maybe it was time for a change. Try to find how the glass is half full any way you can, because there's nothing you can do to change it. And so a lot of it's a pep talk of just not giving up.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We've interviewed a few people now on the show, and every single person, they talk about changes that each entrepreneur has to go through in their business, and ultimately how they have to become something in order to start creating success, real success. And You're saying, people have to become adaptable. They have to become flexible. They have to move from opportunity to opportunity and not take it personally, because real failure only exists when we stop trying, right? If they keep trying, then they're going to learn from what they have done and use that and apply that moving forward. I love that. That's pretty awesome. So we have seen over the last several years, unemployment has just been steadily declining for the better, right? We've seen record lows when it comes to unemployment. And now all of a sudden we see this spike, right? Unemployment has gone through the roof with everything that's happened. How is that going to affect us long term?
Well, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And so what I'm excited about is I think this is a wake up call for so many people that were a little comfortable in their job and thought, I'm never going to lose this job. I'm going to die doing this, whatever.
Yep.
And even if they were just furloughed and laid off and they get their job back, which we hope many, many people experience, it's a wake up call to say, you know what? Having a small business on the side may not be that crazy after all.
Right.
And so many people say, for those of you listening to this podcast that know me, I often say, people come to me and go, oh, it's too risky to start a business. I say it's too risky not to start a business. How many of us, even, I'm asking myself and you guys, how many of us now maybe regret or are grateful that we had multiple sources of income going into this pandemic?
Amen to that.
And heck, how you can't have too many without, there's a point where there's a law of diminishing returns. But at the same token, I really want to hope, and I hope I get on the rooftops of America through shows like this and the opportunity to be with you guys to remind people that it's okay to do both. It's okay to have a day job and a side business. And in fact, it'll make you more secure and give you a greater level of security. So hopefully that's what'll change. I hope it's a gateway drug.
I love that gateway drug.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, I love that though, because you're absolutely right. You know, it's becoming more and more with these wide known side hustles, or
Yes.
what people call them.
The gig
you know,
economy,
the
right?
Lyft and Uber
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. It's becoming very acceptable for younger people to have maybe a job and a side gig that they're also involved in. And I love thinking that this is now an opportunity to wake up the rest of everyone and say, hey, get out there and do something. I you know, Mark, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I know that you may not remember this, but you and I know each other from about 10, 12 years back. As you were teaching earlier. And I'll never forget that one of the examples, because you have been, for the longest time, you've been telling everybody, hey, you have to have a small business and you should be buying one rental per year. I've heard that forever and ever and ever. And luckily I was listening. But I remember that you were talking about people doing simple things that they really love to do. And one story you used to tell was about a guy who had a small website that talked about fishing.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it can be that simple where people are just having a small business on the side that creates some income that they can then use to carry them over in times like now, which are unprecedented, right? At least in my lifetime, I don't remember ever seeing another economy like this one.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Okay,
All right.
I'm going to come out right here. Matt?
Yeah.
I know you've got one. What is that little side business that you don't mind sharing because you don't want to share something that someone might steal, you know? But I bet you got one. This is your chance to plug it.
Oh, man.
What do you want to do on the side? There's something, right? I know you're an entrepreneur.
You know what?
Say your name.
So this is it. This would be this. I've wanted to get into podcasting for a long time. So this might be the sideway. I don't know. You know, this is the start. Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you started that book idea yet?
The book idea?
Well, every podcaster's got a book.
You got to have a book in you, man.
How many books do I have to buy to be on the New York bestseller?
Don't worry about New York Times. No, start with an ebook. You know, I'm now. Yeah.
So I've thought that very same thing, like a book. But, yeah, you know, I figure podcasting and maybe a book down the line. It's one of those things it's not. Say what?
Have you started your blog yet?
No. I'm going to start tonight.
Here's the tip for you. Okay, I wanted to ask because I love to get in a room with people and go, what do you love to do? And then I try to create at least 6 revenue sources from that they could start making money within 30 days.
Nice.
You know, just like let's just do it, right? And so the one thing I'm just going to throw out an idea. If you love podcasting, that's awesome. At the end of this show, even, I want you to write down 2 or 3 takeaways. What was Mark's? What did I get from Mark? Hopefully
Number
something.
1, cowboy hat.
Not good. Okay. Fail. Okay, no. But you write down like 2 or 3 things from this podcast, and then you turn it into a blog article, and you practice your writing. And when I wrote my first book, the editor at Entrepreneur Magazine said, "Okay, let's dive into it." And they threw it back at me within days and said, rework this chapter, They go, you have to write to an 8th grade level. And I had proofread it like 10 times and it was red with ink. So you have to have thick skin and just take feedback. But I learned how to write a distinct, 1,000 words about any topic, and all those English classes you hated in high school and college come back to play. Mm-hmm. You can take that podcast, turn it into a blog article. And then when you have 20 blog articles, you now start to have the outline of a book. Then you start to plug those into this outline. And pretty soon you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 1/3 of my book written. And It's happening every day as I get on my podcast.
Oh man, that is solid right there. That is content.
You better write that down.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm going to give you my address, and you just send me a check.
You got it.
Oh
When
man.
you're worth millions, just remember us little people.
Nice. Nice. That's
So
awesome.
James, what's your side bit? What's your side hustle that you're doing now or you want to do?
Dude, so Mark, you've helped me set up probably 5 different entities now that my wife and I are running. So we that's our side hustle, man. That's what we're doing on the side that has actually, and don't say this too loud, but it occurred to me about 3 years ago that I make more money in my side gig than I do working my W-2 here at Renatus. So I love you, Bob Snyder. I'm not going anywhere. I choose to be with Renatus. I don't have to be, but that's
it right there.
That has been such a warm blanket.
Options, man.
Yeah,
you've got options.
It's been such a warm blanket as I see this uncertainty, as I see other people go through this up and down, and they're unsure. And I remember back in 2007 and 8 when not just the housing market, that's what we like to talk about a lot, is the housing market, but we also saw the stock market tank. Do you remember when everybody lost their retirement? Their retirements got cut in half, or
Yeah.
So I've just Garrett Gunderson. It's okay. I was just calling you on the phone at the same time. That's what it was. No, Garrett Gunderson really likes to talk about that you need to invest in what you know and what you love. And just like you said, Mark, you need to take those ideas that are brewing inside of you and you need to make them real and make them an opportunity for you moving forward. That's awesome.
Now, as you guys all noticed, Jay sidestepped talking about his business, which I think is very professional. That's okay. He didn't want to talk about it. But I think Jay made an important point, and this is really good for all of you. If I may.
You may.
Be so bold. Even though Jay and his wife are making money with their business on the side, or making more money with their side business, notice what they haven't done. Jay hasn't quit the day job, and that's okay. In fact, I think that's a great thing because he's going to look great on a credit score with a mainstream W-2. He's going to have some benefits to rely on, maybe some steady income, because anybody that's an entrepreneur knows that cash flow will go up and down. And so I want to encourage so many people. The purpose of having a side business isn't to quit your day job, is to have a better way to build wealth, a better way to have financial freedom, and to also wake up on a weekend or get home at night and go, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to make my impact in the world in a different way. If you don't like what you're doing, don't do it.
Oh,
that's why.
Amen to that.
That's what I was going to say. Like for me, no matter what happens, I'm not going to quit Renatus. Like I love what we do. I truly love it. So it wouldn't matter. I mean, I love the thought of podcasting, and I love to learn about how people think, why they operate the way that they do, and the psychology behind it. But and I can tell Jay feels the same way when it comes to quitting here. There's just, we love what we do.
True that. Mark, the one thing you left off of my resume is I'm married to a real estate professional now.
That's tax savings in a can right there, baby.
Ooh, yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Open a can of tax savings.
I love it.
So
good.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So tell me a little bit as you got started. You mentioned your first book, and your first book was Lawyers Are Liars, right?
Yeah, I hate that title. But that was.
You hate that title?
Well, because you're a lawyer, right? And so that's why you hate that title. Yeah.
The reason why I hate the title, first of all, in the book, I don't call lawyers liars. It's a play on words. And in the preface, I state that there are so many scam artists that call lawyers liars and say, well, I'm going to tell you the real truth. And these self-professed gurus and coaches are setting entities around the country out of a cubicle in Nevada. And that's where the premise somewhat came from. But I had a publisher that loved that play on words, lawyers are liars, and I didn't have a choice. I was a brand new author. I had someone that wanted to fund it, and it hurt because my credibility with lawyers, I don't know, it didn't help. When you have a book called Lawyers are Liars, I always have to explain it. So it was regrettable, but it's a great book. It's sold almost 50,000 copies now, and it's it does a great job calling out the scammers and then teaching what really does
Right.
work. And I have a whole chapter on O.J. Simpson, who I love. He's changed my life, but
You might
so it's all good.
you might want to read the small text on that, how he changed your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He's changed a lot of lives.
Yeah.
so how
So yeah.
how did you first meet Bob Snyder? Because I've heard a little bit of the story from his perspective. Now I want to hear the story from your perspective.
Well, it's actually pretty interesting. I was teaching a class, and it was in South Salt Lake at a realtor convention, and there was probably only 50 people in the room, if that. And Bob had come in and sat on the front row. I didn't know him from Adam, didn't know who he was. And he had a referral because he was doing some real estate education, getting a program off the ground. This is before Renatus,
Right.
well before it. And he was doing his recon. He was looking for a tax and legal instructor, and they just couldn't find anybody. And someone had told him, you got to go hear this Mark Kohler. I think he's the guy you want.
Oh,
He's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I never wear a hat either. My wife hates this hat. The other day she sat in the car until I took it off. And then she's like, okay, I'll go in the store. She's like, I am not going to Home Depot with you wearing that hat.
Oh, I love it. I like the hat.
Anyway. Yeah, thank you, sir. So anyway, he was in the class. I did my dog and pony show, tried to make people laugh, tried to teach a couple principles, and I look back at it and I was so rough around the edges. And I was just back then, I was just teaching classes to realtor organizations. That seemed to be where I had a good fit at the time. Anyway, so right after the class, Bob comes up to me and says, hey, I want to take you to lunch. I'm like, all right, who are you? What do you want free advice for? What is it? Blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, no, we're starting this education program. I want to tell you about it. I'm like, all right. So we went across the street to this, I think it was Joe's Crab Shack or whatever. I can't remember the place. Anyway, it's a seafood place. Anyway, we sat down and he told me all about this plan. And I was like, okay, thank you very much. Bye. And then I thought he was kind of kooky, and not him personally, but the idea, because I get hit up with ideas all the time. And Bob was great, very professional, but I get hit up with ideas. You're going to change the world with what? And I'm going to do what? Never mind. And so he or his partner would call me every couple of weeks for the next almost several months, 2 or 3 months, and be like, dude, we really want you to get on board. What are you doing? Come on. And I ignored their calls. I really thought it was just kind of I just didn't get it. And so anyway, about 3 months in, the friend that originally referred Bob over to me said, dude, you got to take this seriously. They're going to give up on you and you don't want to miss out. I'm like, all right, tell me what the hell they're doing. Is it really legit? And he's like, yeah, it's legit. And so Bob talked me into coming down to Phoenix, and he goes, Mark, come down to Phoenix for 1 weekend. We'll have you teach your class to a group of ours, and you can test the water. You'll see we're legit. I'm like, all right. They bought my plane ticket because I'm like, I ain't paying for it, because I was skeptical. And I went down to Phoenix, met Bob there, and he's like, we're taking you we're going to Nordstrom's. This is true. He said, we're going to Nordstrom's. You don't know how to dress. Took me to it's true. Bought me some new clothes. He goes, we can't have you on stage, and your, clothes, you look like a bum. No, but not that bad. But anyway, and he goes, okay, we're going to have you teach class. I'm like, all right, come on. We walked into Scottsdale Resort, and I'm not kidding you. There were 800 people in this room. Huge stage, just like you, Matt and Jay, set up all the time for Renatus events.
Right.
And I'd never spoken to a group that large before. My knees were shaking, and he's like, all right, you're up in 30. Do your thing. I'm like, what? And I was like, what, are you kidding me? And they're like, here's your pen, here's a whiteboard or a thing or what, it was an Elmo or something.
Yeah, overhead projector or something. Yeah. I think it's
overhead
Elmo.
projector.
Yeah.
And I got up there and I started to do my thing, and I was stumbling over my words. It was almost like, I don't know. Anyway, I could find a movie example, but I used the wrong pen because I didn't put a clear sheet on the thing. And I marked a permanent marker on this overhead. It was a big debacle. Some guy came out and had to clean it off. Anyway, within about 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, I shook it off.
Nice.
And the crowd was patient, and then I rocked it. and I was still very nervous, but I gratefully got my mojo. It was very overwhelming. And at the end, Bob and I hugged and I said, I get it. I see the vision. I get where we're going. I shook his hand and said, thank you for being patient with me. And the rest is history. That's my story.
That's awesome.
So I heard something there. You were in Salt Lake. You're saying that you were presenting and you used to be rough around the edges. What is this?
Oh, well, okay.
Tell me about how you sucked.
Well, no. Well, I mean, Matt, I'll call you out. I mean, the first time you write a blog article, it's going to be terrible.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Right? I write blog articles. I get them edited. But when we started teaching these classes, there was a woman named Carmen Payne. And Jay, do you remember her?
Oh, yes.
Carmen?
I will never forget Carmen.
Yeah, she kind of, she's memorable.
Yeah, great lady.
Yeah, that's I said that, and it might have sounded like a bad thing. I didn't mean it that way.
No, I still have her contact info. Yeah. I text her on her birthday every year. And I mean this seriously. She came to after that big debacle, they set up their program, and Bob said, you're going to teach this class and this class for 2-3 days, whatever. Carmen sat in the back of the room and would take notes. And then after the class, she would tear me a new one and be like, all right, you did this wrong. You need to have an outline down to the word, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, that joke was bad. This joke was good. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she would and for months, if not a couple of years, we called it being caramelized and caramelized, an onion, caramelized onion.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she really did help me know how to cover a topic, create takeaways, know how, and I say this humbly, I've had kind of a natural gift that I can kind of sense the climate in the room of the crowd. Are they getting a little bored? Are they laughing enough? Are they crying enough? And I can change up my presentation like that, knowing what the tone in the room is. But Carmen really helped me identify those triggers, know how to handle the topics, and I outline. I'm talking too much, guys. Anyway, that's Carmen.
She's great. That's exactly.
I was gonna say that's the whole idea here, Mark. We want to hear you talk.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk about Carmen is awesome. It's been a couple years since I've talked with Carmen, and I hope she watches this and knows how much we love and respect her. So
I'm going to text her while we're talking.
Yeah,
Carmen, I was just talking about you. I love you.
She was so precise at like just nailing, because maybe Carmenized or whatever, but she was generally, in my experience, and it was not firsthand, but it was watching other people go through it. Right, I was 17 years old at the time, but everything that she said was right. Like you know what I mean? It may suck to hear, but you'd become better if you took the advice and went with it. She just knew what she was doing.
Yeah. I'm sending her a text. This is a little reminder to some of you. I've learned the hard way that whenever you feel prompted to send someone a text, do it. And there's a reason. I think we're all on this earth to impact others. And I really believe God works through us to help others and impact others. And if you're not doing what he's telling you, you're not helping. And so I was just talking about you and wanted to tell you how much I love you. I'm a better man because of everything you taught me. So I'm going to just tell her that.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
There's no time like the present. If you feel that little push to do something, do it. You won't regret it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's, I have that same, I have that same idea that if I feel like I need to do something, I'm going to do it now, because odds are I'll forget in 5 minutes anyway. So it's better to just get her done.
Yeah. Well, and you never know, how that might affect that person down the line. And you know, in my personal experience, I've learned that the hard way, because I've had people pass away that I've had that impression. I didn't do it right then. And then a couple months down the line, I no longer have the opportunity, and that hurts.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Man, that's deep, man. I haven't had that, but you never know.
Yep,
Yeah,
truly. So with that wonderful note,
Quite a segue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
So
Yay.
let's talk about we heard about where you've come from and how you're nuts to have gotten your passed the CPA exam at the same time you're going to law school, and obviously it doesn't appear like you've slowed down much since then. So now that we're rolling into profits, what do you see the profits doing around the world? Because everybody now has the opportunity to take profits borderless, right? Anywhere in the world, it applies. So how do you see that impacting the world?
Wow. Well, I think this is the first thing that came to mind. I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of funny. I wonder if I have the book right here. I know this sounds weird, but I'm a huge fan of Gene Simmons.
All right.
Is that the guy with the hair? Am I thinking of
no? Well, kind of.
Well,
For those that don't know, Gene Simmons is the lead singer of Kiss.
Yeah, he's the guy with the tongue.
Yeah. I know who you're talking
From
about
the
now. Yeah.
70s and 80s.
Yep.
And he's has this really long tongue. And gosh, sorry guys. Here on my phone's connected here for a reason. Maybe I'll unplug that. That might help. So Gene Simmons is the lead singer of Kiss, and that's the black and white face paint. And what's interesting when you just said, how would profits affect the world? Gene Simmons actually grew up as a little Jewish kid in Gaza Strip. I don't know if you knew that.
Wow.
I didn't.
I did not either.
Literally dirt poor. He didn't ever know his dad. His mom was able to get them as refugees to the United States, into New York in the 70s. And they were so poor, he couldn't even live with his mom. He lived at a synagogue and went to school as a young Jewish kid. Now, he's got a book called Me, Inc. Me, Inc. And I've had all my kids read it. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's really a quick read. And it's a story of how he started the band and all that. Now, here's what's interesting about Gene Simmons. And this is going to answer your question, Jay. Kiss is the band in the history of rock and roll in the United States in the last 100 years that has made more money off of merchandising than any other band. Now there's solo artists like a Michael Jackson and this and that have made more money here, and the Beatles there and there. When it came to merchandising, making money from not concerts or records, Kiss is by far the best. They've done documentaries on his business savvy. Now, Gene Simmons, as crazy as he may look, has never drank or done drugs, ever.
No, are you serious?
Right. And now he's played probably, he's had his women, his escapades with women maybe, but he's never done drugs or alcohol. Wow. And he teaches classes on business and the story of how he started the band. I'm going to leave it there. No spoiler alert. You've got to read it on how he had this business savvy. Now, the one story in the book that I love is that when he was in Jerusalem in the Gaza Strip, he and his little brother went up into the mountains and would harvest plants, and they would bring them down into the little town and would sell these for extra change and money. And the first time he did it, and he came home and showed his mom the profit that he made from going up at the early in the morning with his brother and picking these plants and then coming down to the market and selling them. His mom said, "Where did you get that money? Did you steal it?" And he goes, "No, we went and did this and sold it." And he said, the fire that burned within him, that I can control my own destiny and I can make money legitimately and honestly with my own two hands. He goes, that's when the capitalism bug caught me. And it's been with me my entire life. And when he started the band of Kiss, it wasn't out of some altruistic way to change the world with music. It was a business idea to him from day one. And so it's just what's interesting to me is when you said, how can profits change the world? It already is. There are business owners in every nook and cranny of this country. And I mean, of this world, whether they're in Amazon harvesting this or that, or in Australia selling this or that or whatever. Right. And the basic principles of buy low and sell high and make money and sustain yourself and your family is universal. And so if I can share in any way, helping a little kid learn how to sell lemonade on the streets of Tasmania, I want to do it. And I'd love to share my little stories of being a kid with a lemonade stand and how they changed my life, helped change their lives. And it's a universal concept. So.
That's awesome. I love that. Everything with Renatus it revolves around the idea of empowering people to go out there and create their own success. And I'll speak personally here for a minute. The lives of my children have been blessed because of some of the knowledge that you have shared with me. In regards to how to manage a business, how to pay them, how to help them to start functioning, as a responsible fiscal citizen. My kids have actually, I love this whole stay-at-home thing that we're doing right now, because my kids, they get their homework done in about an hour and a half, and then they go out there and make money the rest of the day. And they are hustling. They have never made more money than they are making right now, just doing odd things. They're mowing lawns. They'll go work for me at one of my houses, my fix and flip. They'll do all of these things, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
I love it.
It's a mindset. That's what you've imparted. It's a mindset. It's a thought process.
Yeah. Well, and those of you that have made it this long in the podcast, I want to say thank you for listening. Because if I share anything at all that, yeah, thanks, Mom. If I share anything at all that's helpful, I love what you said, that this is a journey, and this whole process and program, you can leave a legacy by teaching your kids. You'd be shocked how many college students in these couple little classes I teach here at a local university. I forgot the name of it, but kids.
I think you're thinking of the University of Utica?
No. Yeah. But no, I meet college students I had a text from a college student this morning, and the common question is like, how do I save? How do I start a business?
That sounds like a BYU student to me.
Yeah, that's right. See, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to save them. But no, kids don't learn this in high school, certainly, right. And they're not even learning it in college. I was teaching a senior level as a guest lecturer about 2 months ago at a senior level construction law class for graduating students going into contracting, many of them to open their own construction business or go work for a large contractor. And I had everybody raise their hands. How many of you have had a small construction project on the side, like a handyman? How many of you know how to do drywall or do this and have been paid as a subcontractor to do any construction before in a small business? That was my question. Out of a class of 45, 50 students, 3 kids raised their hand.
What? Wow.
And I go, you got to be kidding me. And I said, you want to be hireable? You want to be marketable? You've got to go out there and just freaking offer someone to build them a deck, do it at cost. Learn how to pick up some supplies at Home Depot and go build something and get paid for it. How to bid, how to close a sale.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like real life experience has been underrated for a little while, at least in some of the circles that I've been running in. And so, man, there is so much valuable information that you can receive, experience that you can have by just getting out there and trying it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how I got any kind of marketable skills from a young age.
Yeah.
I just took whatever job I could get and I worked my way up,
Yeah. I was talking to Michael Huggins the other day, and he said something to me that I just loved. He said, you can act, no, I'm going to say it backwards. Let me try that again. You can plan to act, or you can act to plan. And I thought, okay, let me think about that for a second. So you can plan to act, you sit down, you draw out what you're going to do, you analyze, you all this, or you can start acting and create a plan as you're starting to go through it.
Precise. It's the way it works, man, because I see a lot of people start a small business and they're just busy to be busy. They're planning, they're organizing, but they're not doing anything that is productive, I guess, if you will, or making them money. There's nothing affecting the bottom line.
Confusing activity for accomplishment. What's that, Mark?
Us old guys call it fake it till you make it.
That's right.
On that note, I think you guys know this and you didn't bring it up, but I'll just allude to it, is that I had a janitorial business for 7 years during my undergrad and master's program. And we would clean carpets, window clean, strip and wax floors, buff grocery store floors. I had 25 employees, sold the business, and used that money to go to law school. Well, so many times I'd go in to bid a job and someone would go, hey, can you do this? Can you strip and or replace tile or refinish that? Or, I mean, just a myriad of different things. They would go, can you do that? I'm like, you're darn right. How much was your other bid for? Right? Okay, let's do it. And this is the days before YouTube, people. So I'd have to go figure this out, and I would lose money inevitably on the first project every time, but I would learn. And then I would go, oh, I can do that again, bid it properly, and then pay someone to do it.
Education has a cost. Yep, you're just paying your education costs that first time. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it works, man. It's life.
Mark, I am so impressed with you right now.
I know, right? Just does it all.
Just hearing about how you went to school, you started your own business, you got out there and killed it. You were never scared of a challenge. You always stepped up and said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm sure there were plenty of people that told you, hey, you're too young, or you're too inexperienced, or nobody takes the CPA exam their first year of law school. Nobody does that. I'm sure that you had plenty of naysayers trying to hold you back. And it's just, I'm so impressed with everything that you've accomplished and who you are. That's awesome.
Well, that's so kind of you guys. It's been a long few weeks. That's nice of you to say. It means a lot.
Are you saying a long few weeks in school? Like you completed school inside of a... No, I'm just teasing.
No. You're talking about the whole coronavirus situation, right?
Man, I was poised for, and I always try to turn lemons into lemonade.
Yep.
But I am just tired. I am worn out, and it's not slowing down for the foreseeable future, which is okay. I'm grateful to have a job. I don't want any of you to think that I'm taking that lightly. I'm grateful to be busy. But
it's very kind of you to be here right now.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
To quote Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon, I'm getting too old for this stuff.
Oh, funny. So, okay. All right. We've talked a little bit about profits and the impact that profits can have around the world. Is there any particular part of profits that you just thought, oh, I'm so excited to share this? Was there one thing that really stood out that you thought, this idea, this is what is going to change, some kid in the Gaza Strip, or in Australia, or in the Amazon, or anywhere else,
or in Idaho, Utah, or Idaho, USA? Is there an Idaho, Utah? I want to live there.
Yeah, I don't think it does.
Look, I'm here for the left turns, Mark. That's what I'm here for, okay?
Somewhere under the rainbow.
Sometimes I hit a rock.
It's all good.
Keep going.
I've been doing a podcast. Matt, I've done over 500 podcasts. Been doing it over 10 years, one a week.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how many times I've messed up and just learned the ropes of interview.
Were you terrible at first?
Oh, of course, yeah. So we all
No. I'm serious because I kind of that's the way I look at things. Is I'm not afraid to be terrible at it and do it anyways.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be unassuming and humble and just keeping it real, and don't let anything ever go to your head. That's the biggest thing I worry about, or I watch myself on. When I do a workshop around the country or whatever, I love to stay after and shake hands and just answer questions as long as I can and just be real. And okay, now what was the question? So around the world?
What's the one thing, the one thought or idea that you shared in your course in profits where you thought, oh yeah, this is it. This is the crux of what I wanted to share. This is... And maybe it's not the crux. Maybe it's not like the one thing that's going to change the world. But what's one thing that you took away, or that you shared in your class, that you think is going to be massively impactful when applied correctly?
Well, I don't know if it is, but I hope. The part that I was most nervous to teach, because I thought it was kind of boring, and I didn't know if people would catch the passion and vision I had for that section, And later, Bob and Christian said, "Oh my gosh, Mark, you nailed it. That's what we needed." I was like, "You sure?" Because I went out on a limb on that one. Is I give the example of a little churro restaurant shop, and I teach, and ironically, the very word profit, and I go through fixed cost and variable costs, cost of goods sold, gross profit margin. What do I make off one churro? How many churros do I have to sell to cover rent? And I went through this example, and we put real numbers on a real P&L with a real projection. And I taught it in the context of, you do this before you open the freaking shop. Mm-hmm. And I love that piece of the class. I hope everybody else loves it.
Hey, Mark, I actually edited that, and that was absolutely worth the price of admission. I loved that part of that class. It was awesome. Oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome stuff.
And the reason why I love it for several reasons. You know, the concept of learning what's the profit on each product that's sold, and gross profit and per item and break even and all that. But the part that I really wanted to emphasize in that section, and I hope it came across, was you guys would be shocked how many business owners I meet with that are 2 to 3 years into investing their life savings, their blood, sweat, and tears, everything they've done, sometimes sacrificing marriage and relationships to start a business. And they're into it 3 or 4 years. And I go, didn't you run these numbers before you started? I mean, didn't you see this coming? Or was this competitor, did they come to town late after you started? Why are you, like, it's just something that you're like, if you really did a business plan before you started this, you would have seen this. And they go, Mark, I got so excited. I just ran and did it. I didn't do that analysis. And they say, what I would give to have that 3 years back if I just would have done a simple break-even analysis. That's it. A simple break-even. And so when anybody comes to me with an idea, I'm like, what do you got to do to break even? And they're like, some go, oh, XYZ. Or they'll go, what do you mean? I go, how many hours do you have to work? How many widgets do you have to sell? How many employees have to work for how long until you just break even in one given month? Before you even pay yourself, what do you got to do? How many sales? If you don't know the answer to that, you don't even freaking stick a shovel in the dirt until you understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Point.
Step number 1 right there. I love it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Step number 1 is get a cowboy hat. That's step number 2.
Oh, my bad. Then cowboy hat, then the shovel.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Right on. So,
hey, sorry, I just wanted to say that I thought it was great because it falls in line with one of the many things that is always repeated in Renatus, is that do the numbers. Check your numbers. Make sure you check your numbers. And I thought that was a perfect example of why you should always run the numbers before you do anything at all to make sure it works.
Yeah.
Nice.
I agree with that.
So
wholeheartedly.
I know we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I just want to ask, where did the whole competition with John Dessauer start?
Oh, dude.
For those that don't know, and we got to let our listeners know a little background. Johnny Dessauer teaches multifamily and some other classes at Renatus. Very skilled. And we met each other well over 10 years ago. And if those that don't know him, if you go to his class and you get any time to associate with him on his webinars or his little workshops or anywhere you can, you will find out quickly he is so witty. He is so much more funny than I am, and so smart. And I can't keep up. And I've always been envious of that. He's just so witty. And so we'd be teaching classes, and I would just start to try to keep up with him. And he'd be two rooms down, and I'd try to make my room laugh harder than his, and tell everybody give him a 0 and give me a 10. So it was really me trying to play catch up with that guy because he is so smart. But that's
you know what, he may be a little wittier, but he definitely doesn't dance on stage. So there's something to that too.
Yeah, and he's not that smart. But see, being witty is different than being smart.
It's two different things, huh?
They are.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I tell you what, Mark, I know that you have already and will continue to inspire and to educate people across the country and now across the world. I am grateful for everything that you've done for me, for my family, for Renatus. And I'm just so thankful that you were willing to take the time to come out here and just share a little bit about your background with us.
Oh, it's an honor. I hope it wasn't boring and people flipped right off and your listening ratio goes down tremendously with my episode. But no, you guys keep doing what you're doing. I love it. And your audio quality is great. Your video quality is great. I love your format. And so you just guys I hope I can come back. And when you get bored of interviewing all these instructors or others and you need some real content, just remember to call me and not Johnny, and I'll be there.
You got it.
Right on. Well, on behalf of myself and Mr. Matt Snyder, thank you. Want to also give a special shout out and thanks to Mr. Aaron Peterson, who is our producer. Aaron, thank you for all that you do. I know we give you a hard time, but you're worth it. So, just thanks for everything, man. Renatus rocks.
This is the Renatus J.A.M.
Yeah, but Renatus rocks the Renatus
It's called
J.A.M.
the Renatus
But
J.A.M.
Matthew, why do we go through this every single... Mark, thank you for being with us, man. You rock.
Thank you.
Yeah. You guys need to practice your outgo. Like, who says goodbye? You know, that
it's
you
the
guys a little.
he says something and then I tell him what he said wrong, and that's how this
You
works.
guys fight for the last word. I know how it is.
Yeah,
Both of you want the
we're
last
gonna be here
word,
an hour later after you're already gone.
You know what, Matthew? It's on. After this, I'm going to jump over this table. We're going to get old school in here.
No. What was that show, The Bride? The Brides, where she had to get up and have the last word in toasting at the shower, their wedding shower.
Bridesmaids?
Oh, what was Bridesmaids, when she had to get up and like have the last word.
Yeah.
You guys will keep grabbing the mic long after I'm gone, so I like it.
Well, Mark, thanks again, man. You're awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, bud. We'll see you guys.
See ya.